you will be out of alignment and you will suffer. You will keep saying, well, I don't have these results, I don't have these results, I don't have these results. But you haven't admitted to yourself that you haven't made it a priority. Admit to yourself you haven't made it a priority, and maybe that's okay for the time being. Maybe you're gathering your strength, you're gathering your courage, you're focused on something else. When we talk about alignment, it's also important to talk about motivations, the forces, the drivers at play that make us act a certain way, okay? And to understand these things, understand why we sometimes fall out of alignment and how to kind of keep ourselves in check so that we get back on track. So as far as motivations go, let's establish something here. Most things we do, are driven by, let's call it passion or circumstances, or by pleasure, moving towards pleasure and avoiding pain. We have a certain passion or a calling, or circumstances push on us to do something. We want to move towards pleasure. We want to move away from pain. And that can, of course, change over time, and that can be influenced over time, but usually this is what it kind of comes down to. And these things, passion or circumstances, moving towards pleasure, avoiding pain, allowing circumstances to kind of push on us, that can also dictate how we act from the right place or from the wrong place. Right place usually means from a place of love, and wrong place usually means from a place of fear. Seeking/avoiding one thing over another can compromise something else. Okay, when we seek one thing or avoid one thing, it compromises something else. So while it's important to understand that we're motivated by, let's say, passion or circumstances, pleasure or pain, we also need to understand that at some point that motivation can be coming from a bad place. Does that make sense? Can be coming from a place of fear versus from a place of love. It's okay to move towards pleasure, and it's okay to move away from pain, so long as overall it's coming from a place of love and not fear. And sometimes it starts from a place of fear, but we need to recognize at some point if we're moving towards pleasure or avoiding pain and it's coming from a place of fear and fear and fear, that's a bad thing. And this is where this idea of the fear versus love, or scarcity versus abundance compass comes in, okay? Scarcity and abundance really are a form of fear versus love, because when we subscribe to universal unconditional love, we subscribe to abundance, universal abundance. When we subscribe to fear, we'll talk about all the different forms of fear, but one of them is scarcity. It's feeling like you're gonna run out. You're gonna run out of money, you're gonna run out of ideas, you're gonna run out of opportunities, you're gonna run out of girls to talk to. Okay, that's a common one for guys, right? They're gonna run out of girls to talk to. They're gonna lose that girl, that special, whether it's a relationship or a girl you're talking to or a date. It's like, if they don't latch on, right, it's a form of attachment. A lot of these things are gonna start coming together. It's like they latch on to that, right? They get attached because they're scarce, because they're afraid, because their entire identity is attached to this idea, to the girl, to some romantic ideal, this idea of a person that they're trying to become. It's all coming from a place of fear. We're starting to understand where our motivations come from. Pleasure and pain, passion and circumstance, okay? And then on a lower level, it's usually, driven by fear versus love. And so we need to understand these things because we want to be able to do these alignment checks. And I'll bring this all full circle so you kind of understand how this all ties in with, your life and pursuing success with women. We need to do these alignment checks. You need to be generally checking in to see if your actions, thoughts, and feelings align. Long-term, short-term. Are you acting in alignment? You do that by checking in to see if you're acting from a place of love versus fear, acting to generally see if you're out of balance with those essential priorities that you need, the fact that you need health, wealth, relationships, and a purpose. Okay, are you out of alignment with that? Checking in with those things? And are you acting out of alignment with the 4 virtues, with the virtual way of life? You need to also understand sometimes that if certain drivers, if certain motivations are causing you to fall too much out of alignment and you're unhappy, then you can't focus on other things. You know, if where you live is not in alignment, it's not a positive and inspirational place, whether it's your house or your neighborhood, wherever it is, and you're suffering as a result, you can't focus on other things. If your family is negative, or if your girlfriend is negative, or she doesn't inspire you, if you're not being true to yourself in that regard, or if your health, if your diet's not good, right? If there's any one thing that's really weighing you down and you don't address it, then other things then you can't improve on other things. If you have no money, if your wealth has really suffered, then you're not going to be able to pursue success with women in dating. If you haven't been true to your purpose, okay, to your higher calling, to what you want to do in life, assuming, let's say, it's coming from a place of love, to what you really want to pursue. And by the way, this is all these things are, a work in progress. That's what we have to do, these check-ins over the course of time to see, where do we fall out of alignment? Ooh, we've been doing too much of this, and this is causing me other areas to suffer. Okay, but basically, when you fall too much out of alignment with certain things, then others can't progress. I'm personally experiencing this now, living in this apartment, which I love. I love this neighborhood, but I've been in this apartment for 7 years, more or less, give or take. I've been away many times, and sometimes for long periods, but I've been here for about 7 years. And this place, carries a lot of triggers and traumas for me. I've gone through a lot while living at this place. And so I associate this environment with a lot of the shit that I went through. I am no longer in alignment, okay, with this place and this energy. I'm out of alignment in that sense. Okay, I'm no longer living my truth in a way. And so that is also affecting everything else. So that's something I'm changing this year. I want to move. Something else that's important to note here when we talk about these essentials for our balance, health, wealth, relationships, and purpose, sometimes we need to put certain things on the back burner and work on things 1 or 2 things at a time. Now, we want to avoid utter macro disharmony, right? We can't, for example, completely neglect, let's say, our relationship and just be like, no, I'm just focusing on my health right now. Obviously, that's going to suffer, and then as a result, everything else. But it is important to understand that you can only juggle sometimes certain things, 1 or 2 things at a time, and certain things have to take a back seat. Now, how long they take a back seat for is something you need to figure out, and recognizing that at some point it's going to lead to utter disharmony. It is important to understand that you can only tackle so many things at a time, and to be at peace with that. I see this in guys that are trying to get good at this. I've seen this in myself in many ways. When we're not at peace with the fact, this is another form of alignment, right? Being in alignment with the fact that we have to prioritize certain things over others at various stages in our life. Some guys, for example, are not ready to commit to something. They're not ready to take the plunge to do, to get this, for example, this part of their life handled, building a successful dating life, building romantic freedom and abundance. They're not there yet. They're not ready to take the plunge. They're not ready to commit. But that's okay, right? You need to understand that you're not there yet. And if you don't admit that to yourself, you will be out of alignment and you will suffer. You will keep saying, well, I don't have these results. I don't have these results. I don't have these results. But you haven't admitted to yourself that you haven't made it a priority. Admit to yourself you haven't made it a priority, and maybe that's okay for the time being. Maybe you're gathering your strength, you're gathering your courage, you're focused on something else. Whether or not, focusing on that thing is right or wrong, you're focused on that thing. Maybe you're going to realize later, you know what, you were doing this other thing in excess. You're working on this project or this business or this master's degree also as some form of escapism. You kept pursuing education, for example, as a form of escapism. Maybe that's going to take you time to understand. But until then, you have to admit to yourself that getting this part of your life isn't a priority. And if you accept that, at the very least, you will be in alignment about that. And so that you can then focus your energy and attention somewhere else by figuring out to what degree you need all this higher education. If you come to terms with this, you're going to realize at some point, well, maybe that's become a source of escapism. And then you're going to come back to this. And you're going to say, you know what, now I am committed to building a successful dating life on my terms and following my truth and all that stuff. So we need to be in alignment as well, right? What we feel, what we do, and what we think need to be in alignment. We need to be in alignment with what we are and are not willing to commit to at this point in our lives. We need to also be in alignment about what we are and are not scared to do. Being fully at peace with the current reality, with the current truth. And again, this takes time. This is a process, and it requires us to check in. But we first need to be aware of all the different ways we can fall out of alignment, and hence why I'm making this video as a general framework, roadmap, if you will, that you can use as a resource. First of all, so I can build this awareness. And second of all, so you can use this as a resource so you can learn more and have these check-ins with yourself. Another thing that you can be in and out of alignment with is what works. What works? Like when it comes to success with women, if you don't understand what works, or you understand it but don't embody it and don't fully internalize it and act in accordance to that, then you're out of alignment. Then you're out of alignment with what works. Another way that you can be out of alignment is when your honest signals don't align with the persona that you put on, the way you act in social situations. Some people try to put on a certain kind of facade, a certain kind of persona, and then their honest signals can give them away. Usually it's our subcommunications. Our subcommunications are our primary honest signals, and they give us away. They show that we're not being real, essentially. We're not being real. Now, there is this whole notion of faking it till you make it, which I talk about, which sometimes you have to. It takes time to, fall into alignment with this new person that you're trying to become, okay? And so your honest signals have to catch up with that. And that sometimes is inevitable and part of the process. So that's another form of alignment that we're gonna be talking about and we have talked about. I'm just reminding you here. So we talked about living in alignment with the higher order. Okay, we talked about living in alignment with love. We talked about living in alignment with the 4 cardinal virtues. We also talked about the importance of having these preferred indifference, okay, as the Stoics called them, certain things that are important for us, the pursuit of which is important. Family, health, wealth, relationships. We know that we want to maintain some form of balance of these things, okay? We want to socialize, we want to work on our purpose, we want to make money so that we can live virtuously, okay? So that we can continue to live virtuously because that is our truth. And usually this happens as a byproduct of living virtuously, by the way. It's kind of like when you follow the process, the results happen. We talk a lot about this success with women. When you follow the process, the results come. We're starting to understand what alignment is and what it means to be in alignment or out of alignment. Essentially, to understand that we need to paddle with the current, okay, and not against it. If we paddle against the current, we suffer. If we paddle with the current of life, we prosper. And that's what the universe wants for us. It wants us to prosper. It tests us, but it wants us to prosper. All right, man. Thanks for watching. I hope you're enjoying this content and that it really helps you make some moves in the right direction. Sincerely, because everything I teach, I have lived and breathed and contemplated ad nauseum. Unlike a bunch of these cookie cutter life coach clowns out there that regurgitate some shit they read in a book and call themselves experts. With that in mind, if you want to go deeper, if you want to really know what it takes to become the kind of guy that can confidently attract and manage relationships with quality women on your terms and in a way that is healthy and honest. No scummy or gimmicky shit here. And if you generally want to live a life of truth, freedom, love, courage, and adventure, then as Tom Cruise famously said in Jerry Maguire, help me help you, and go click the link below. There's a very entertaining and informative video that will shed some light on how you can get started. Do it, or you will forever perish into the dark abyss. But seriously, go check it out. Let's kickstart this journey of personal development together and help you reinvent yourself into a sex god.